shift. Thank you.
Um,
Thank you, Mr. Davis.
yes, members, a number of things have been raised. I think we all agree. This committee is the public administration and appropriations, and we look at efficiency in the public sector. So it's something that we're going to have to take into account. Some discussions were had about the capacity building of Parliament in general. The clerk for this committee was saying to me that we were in touch with the counterpart committee in the UK because we're trying to do some stuff. But the clerk of a similar committee in the UK that wrote back is a PhD. That's the person that's in contact. That's what their committee, that's how the structure of their committee is. It's something that we really have to look at, and certainly ourselves here at this committee, the PAAC, are well advanced in working to get our committee to that level. There's a recurrent theme that's coming out, and when I spoke earlier, some of my opening comments spoke to it, is that we can't look at this thing, this public sector cut in a linear manner, just cutting of staff. And Dr. Davis, you mentioned it, the unions mentioned it, and the Computer Society. It is a recurring theme. And I think it's true. I think we have to look at it in the context of what is the role of government and what we want to get at the end. And everyone has mentioned the delivery of social services, what it can do, and specifically enhancing the productivity of Jamaica and the development of the country in general. Dr. Davis, you mentioned some very important points in the recommendations. And I think if we're all in agreement that these public sector, the restructuring is not necessarily something we're looking at enhanced efficiency, but that the cost savings are not going to be what is going to be the selling point of it. I think we need to take some more serious looks at some of those proposals. And Dr. Bartlett had mentioned the fact the unions themselves. I think that what would be useful with the PSTU is a discussion, including Dr. Davis and the unions, to really look at some of those issues. I don't know whether it's something that, I don't know how we could structure that discussion, but I think some of these things should be looked at and a discussion. So some of those things that were discussed here, I noticed there was some of the unions, there were a sort of agreement in the context that they must be looked at. Not that there's an agreement to do that, but I think that if one thing this committee must do is facilitate that discussion. And I'm going to ask Ms. Sinclair McCallum, I think if through the committee, if you can sort of set up to have some general discussions on some of these other areas so that we're not looking strictly at those things that have been coming before us and people who want to be here or move there, but look at some of the larger pictures that are even more important. I think we would have made a great step in making the success of this. So I'm going to charge the unit, if you can set it up, whether you want to initially set up the meetings and sort of have a meeting to have some discussions and bring it back at the earliest convenience, or whether the members would like us to have the meetings here. I'm amenable to both.
Mr. Chairman, I made the suggestion because I think that we as a committee will be reporting to Parliament on this paper. And that kind of discussion would be, very, very important as part of our, report, and such a meeting would be important as part of our report to Parliament on this whole matter. And so I suggest that any arrangement be a special session here with us at this committee.
Well, if all the, yeah, certainly.
I suggest that it be done here for the very purpose you've just stated, Member Bartlett just stated. And just to say that what Dr. Davis has done for us today is to validate much of what we already have in the Green Paper, but which now needs further elaboration. So he has actually assisted the process through endorsing, and where there are other areas for reconsideration, we're certainly open to further discussions to help guide our thinking in terms of the final report to the Cabinet.
What I would like to recommend then is we're going to facilitate another sitting. The clerk will notify, let's find a date that's appropriate, very soon, of course, because we're trying to stick within the timetable. And we would invite back, I certainly would like, I think the recommendations of the Computer Society were excellent as well. What I would like is for a sort of a commingling, sort of organizational dexterity, but I would like a commingling of all the information that went out, so that what we can do is come back with the intention of arriving at some recommendations that are not just what in the Green Paper, but looking even at the wider, what wider things need to be looked at. And that's going to take some discussion and some research. It's unfair to really engage in that debate today. So we will invite everybody who was here today to return and as soon as possible, and to really look at some of these recommendations. And certainly, if there are any that have been left out, please feel free to get them to the clerk early so that she can disseminate them so we can get it all together. Members, I think that we have had an excellent session today. I think today has been one of the better sessions for this committee. I want to thank Dr. Davis, Mr. Chung, Mr. Jones, Mr. Goodley, and the rest of the team, Mr. Clarke, Ms. Sinclair McCallan, her team. Thank you all for coming, members, and as soon as possible, we will set a date for a follow-up meeting to look at the number of these issues dealt with today. With that, if there's nothing else, members, this committee is now adjourned. Thank you.